The breaking news as Sheriff Susan Hutson faces over 24 charges in an indictment that was released this afternoon.
And we certainly have been working to gather all the information and the next steps in this case. WDSU reporter Jasmine Franklin joins us with the new details, or what details we know so far surrounding this indictment. Jasmine.
Exactly, and Gina, Sheriff Hutson is facing 30 felony counts, all related to the massive jailbreak that happened right here at the Orleans Parish Jail nearly 1 year ago. New details from the Attorney General's office shows that Hutson is facing several charges, including malfeasance in office, conspiracy to commit malfeasance, filing or maintain false public records, along with a number of other charges. Documents show her bond has been set at $300,000, and she's not the only person facing charges here. The sheriff's chief financial officer, Bianca Brown, also indicted on 20 counts, facing similar charges, including conspiracy to commit obstruction of justice. Now, this comes nearly 1 year after 10 inmates ran out of the Orleans Parish Jail. Many of those inmates were facing very serious charges, and they've all been brought back into custody. But there were many concerns specifically with the sheriff regarding a timeline on notifying the public after the escape happened and how the jailbreak was even possible to begin with. Both Hudson and the CFO were asked to surrender their passports, and they are not allowed to leave the state of Louisiana as of right now. WDSU reporter Alyssa Gomez is outside of criminal court with more on this case. Alyssa.
Yeah, Jasmine, the sheriff is expected to be here around 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And keep in mind, this all comes just days before she's set to leave her post as sheriff, and just a day after she gave an emotional farewell speech where she highlighted some of her accomplishments and even talked about some of her challenges in the 5 years as head of the Orleans Parish Justice Center. Sheriff first made history in 2022 as the first African-American woman to serve as a sheriff in Louisiana and the first woman to hold the spot in the city of New Orleans. Yesterday, she took time to highlight some of those accomplishments, including successfully raising deputy pay and leading the sheriff's office in a swift response to the Bourbon Street terror attack. But she also acknowledged the criticism she faced during that jailbreak in May, noting it as a challenging time and saying that it, quote, tested us to the limits and caused national headlines. Now, as you look ahead to tomorrow, former Judge Fran Zibelich overseeing the case. He's been appointed by the Supreme Court, taking over after another judge stepped down. Again, we will be right back here at criminal court tomorrow morning as the sheriff is expected to make her first court appearance around 9 a.m. Live at the courthouse, Alyssa Gomez, WDSU News.
All right, Alyssa, thank you, Alyssa. And Jasmine setting the stage for us. Joining us now on set is legal analyst Pat Fanning. We'll just jump right in. This grand jury and whole process was conducted by the state attorney general's office. How common is that for the state AG to come in and panel a grand jury and then have indictments as a result?
Gina, what typically happens is a crime occurs, the local DA looks at it and says, I have a conflict for some reason, recuses himself, sends it to the AG's office. We don't know if that's what happened in this case, but it seems unlikely. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole investigation started. Did the Republican Attorney General initiate it herself, or did someone send the case to her?
Yeah, and on that note, you want to talk about how the optics don't look good right now. You discussed that with me about the Republican sitting AG.
Well, you know, as a defense attorney, I look at it and say, okay, what do we have that we can make hay of? Well, are we starting to see a pattern where a Republican U.S. Attorney's Office indicted the black female mayor of the blue city, and now we have a Republican Attorney General indicting the black female sheriff of this blue Democrat city? So to me, and with an Orleans Parish jury, that's an obstacle they're going to have to overcome, that the optics, I don't think, look good.
If you're the defense attorney, is that what you're strategizing right now? What are you thinking in how to defend your client?
Well, I don't know how much she knows about the investigation and what they're actually charging her with. All we have is a bare bones outline. So it's hard to say what your defense is going to be, but that's certainly going to be a part of it. And I would expect whoever represents her to be saying that the first time one of you guys sticks a mic in his face.
You may recall, like after the first press conference following the jailbreak, WDSU's Travers Mackle, he asked the sheriff if she would like to apologize. I think we actually have that clip. Let's take a listen.
But do you want to offer any kind of contrition or apology to people for something like this happening?
Well, first we have to find out exactly what happened and how they got out. We think this was intentional. There is much more than meets the eye in this investigation. And why did it happen just right now, right? In the middle, as we're getting ready to start this sheriff's race. This is very suspicious. We know that they had help.
So hearing that right now, do you think that has any, she claimed it may have been an inside job. Does that hold any merit or does that play anything into this indictment?
I don't think that means anything. Whether it's an inside job, outside job, where it came from, makes no difference. You're the sheriff. You're supposed to keep the jail safe and locked up and keep these guys in jail so they can't hurt anybody, and they got out. So to say it's an inside job or the timing is suspicious, I mean, the guys who broke out, that's the ones who decided when to leave. So I don't think that helps her at all.
All right.
All right, legal analyst Pat Fanning, thank you for your time. We certainly will be relying on your insight as this process moves forward.